Hey gang, what's going on? How are you doing? And welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. As always, my friend, I do hope you are doing well. I really do hope that. And welcome back to, of course, what is Chelsea news here on Football Therapy, which is the daily series here on the channel where I reflect on what's been said about Chelsea, giving you my thoughts on it. More importantly, asking for yours in today's content. Many of you may have seen from topmercato.com, which I believe is, it's been translated, this article. Javier Pastore speaking out a little bit more, but perhaps in the more positive sense about his client Enzo Fernandez and how everything's fine, just fine. Some of you may know that South Park reference. And how every little thing is gonna be alright. I'm not entirely sure though, personally. Things being smoothed over might just be what's in the interest of everyone involved. That still may lead to a summer sale, but we'll see. Wagwan with that. We'll get into it, mate. I'm gonna dive into it. And we'll investigate the situation. Also, today, on the 9th of April, Wayne Vasey on Football Insider. And this is classic. I knew this was coming eventually. Coventry City draw up Frank Lampard contingency plan as Chelsea's Liam Rosilia decision emerges. Could it be a Lampard version 3? Now, we're going to save some time for that. Okay, so it's pointless me offering comment right now because it's going to be a segment in today's content. And finally, it's been confirmed pretty much that James Trafford, the 23-year-old goalkeeper, will leave Manchester City in the summer, and lots of teams looking at him. I've seen on social media some fans discuss a potential loan option. You know, if he could be loaned to Chelsea for maybe even like 2 years, a year or 2 years to play, like hopefully, touch wood, Champions League. But, you know, be first team goalkeeper for Chelsea as an Englishman means you've got a very strong chance of challenging Jordan Pickford for England's number 1 spot. I know Pickford's been excellent for England and deserves, loyalty. But, I tell you what, a 23-year-old James Trafford, if he thinks I could be Chelsea's number 1, I can be England's number 1. Because Arsenal don't have an English goalkeeper, Man City, Man United, none of these men have English goalkeepers. I could be the one, do you know what I mean? A big 6 club of an English starting goalkeeper. I think it's got to be spoken about. So thanks for joining me on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, thanks for liking and subscribing. Do consider checking me out on the podcast apps, Football Therapy Podcast. I'm really grateful for all the 5-star reviews you guys have given me on Spotify. If you want to do that, there's a link in the top of the description, on your phone. Just tap 5-star follow on Spotify. It does help me out, man. And similarly, if you've got an iPhone and you use Apple Podcasts, you could do the same there. That would be very nice of you. Thank you very much. Right, so, also Football Therapy clips. I haven't been uploading clips on these short form platforms recently. That will start. I've been mega stressed. I've been speaking to you guys. I've been ill recently, trying to complete this house move, and I have been covering Chelsea as a job. It's been very stressful. It's been very, very stressful. But I will start doing the short form media, so Football Therapy clips will be up and running again. So follow on TikTok and Instagram. So here we go. Top Mercato. Enzo Fernandez shouldn't have said that. We've made peace with Chelsea. Javier Pastore, of course, his agent, puts an end to the controversy. Does he? So I'm not necessarily going to share screen all of this because it's pointless. I'm just going to read it to you, gang. But it's really interesting. This has obviously been flying around social media and the Chelsea news sphere. The last few days has been turbulent at Chelsea. I think this is a translated article, by the way. So if it's a bit broken English, forgive me. But don't forgive me, I ain't done nothing wrong. But during the international break, Enzo Fernandez stirred things up by making a series of statements perceived as a subtle overture to Real Madrid ahead of a transfer window. Of course, criticising He was criticising Maresca's parting, or Maresca walking away, what led up to that. Also then said, I don't know about my future in the summer, we'll see. And then started doing, the Madrid twerking. So it was a hat trick of sort of, inappropriate things for a captain to be doing, you'd have to say. Hence the 2-game suspension. But now people are assuming maybe because of this piece, this public piece, maybe he'll be playing for the Man City game this weekend. But if he is, would he be wearing the captain's armband? Javier Pastore seems to think so. Listen to this. Following the sanctions imposed by the Blues, the midfielder's agent Javier Pastore explained to Top Mercato that everything is now back to normal. Alright, by declaring he could see himself living in Madrid during an interview broadcast while the Argentine international or national team was away, Fernandez caused a stir at Chelsea. Considering he had disrespected the Blues, the club handed him, of course, the 2-match suspension. The South American player's agent, Pastore, originally came out saying it was unfair and opened the door to a possible departure in 2026. A few days later, basically sort of saying, like, we are in talks with Chelsea for an extension. If we can't do it, we'll get the hell out of there, which is, just what you want to hear right now. Speaking to Top Mercato in Paris, of course he played for PSG for a long time, Pastore. So, donc, il parle français très bien, peut-être? I think he speaks French. Pastore explained exclusively that discussions had taken place with Chelsea and he had helped to de-escalate the situation. Quote, here it comes. We've already talked about this in recent days. There are statements he made without any intention of causing problems at Chelsea. Come on. You know the truth. He's the captain, is he? One of the team's leaders, yep, you'd say he is, and he's shown his best form on the pitch this season. I'd argue that's true. He was simply talking about a city. Come on. I mean, I understand why his agent's saying this, but, Then there were a lot of interviews in a short period of time where he talked about his future. The media mixed things up. It was always the media, innit? And started saying he was going to leave Chelsea. Now, this is your headline. There's absolutely nothing to it, the former Paris Saint-Germain star clarified. We are on the same page with Chelsea. Now, we can talk about what that means in a moment. We made peace yesterday, so just recently. And the day before, between Chelsea and the player, there's never really any problems. We cleared the air. So they're all on the same page now. But you got to remember what Liam Rosenior said, or implied, or inferred when he said his conversations with Enzo. He didn't say Rosenior, he wants to stay here and he's committed to Chelsea like he has with other players before, like Cole and stuff. So maybe Enzo has said, look, I want out. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to keep playing and keep trying hard, but I want out. And maybe that's what the same... I'm guessing... I'm not saying this is the situation. I'm just playing devil's advocate because that's sort of my responsibility as a content creator. Maybe there is a scenario where they are all at peace and they're like, look, you want to go? We will sell you if the money comes in, but you are contracted. If not, maybe we can still give you a contract extension with more money, but maybe all options are on the table. Maybe everyone's been respectful, professional now, not dirty laundry in the media. Do you know what I mean? Fernandez might have, without formally handing a transfer request, said, "Can you flog me if the money comes in? But I will keep giving my darndest because I've got to go to the World Cup, and also I've got to keep my profile high. I've got to keep performing for Chelsea." So I'm only guessing here, but that could still be the same page. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I love Chelsea, I'm going to stay here forever. This also, Enzo Fernandez apologised to Chelsea, apparently, as you can see here on the screen. With Pastore there. In hindsight, Pastore admits his client was clumsy and shouldn't have made such remarks. At 25, the midfielder still has a lot to learn, and the man with 269 appearances for PSG, 45 goals and 61 assists, don't know why we need to hear that about Pastore, gently made that clear to him. What happened. We explained to the player that, even though he hadn't done anything wrong, disagree, but let's move on, he shouldn't have said that. Well, that is saying he's done something wrong. That's quite literally what you're all saying there. He's only 25. He's still young. He's got things to learn, which is fine to a degree. I mean, if he's wearing the captain's armband, he's been here for years, and he's won a World Cup, both club and country. Eventually, especially after the national team bus drama that Chelsea protected him with, that you think maybe he just sort of learned to stop doing silly buggers. We explained to the club that he said it without malice, that he made a mistake. He naturally apologised to the club, which is good. His teammates, which is good. The coach, which is good. The sporting director, who no one cares about. Everyone. We're all on the same page. We had to clear up the misunderstanding. Yeah, so he says, with Chelsea currently 6th in the Premier League, facing crucial matches in the coming week, Pastore called for unity in the final stretch of the season. Chelsea, because he knows his client also gets more money if they get Champions League, probably. Chelsea is fighting for the Champions League spot in the Premier League, which is important for the club. Enzo needs to play because he is a World Cup coming up. Yep, which is true. It's fair. He's being honest. Chelsea need him because he's a key player for their team. True, but there's a lot of Chelsea fans that are also... Because he started every game in this losing run. I'm not suggesting for a moment it's his fault. But there are some Chelsea fans suggesting they'd be interested to see how he would play against Man City without Fernandez, like playing Cole Palmer in the 10, playing Caicedo with maybe a Lavia or a Santos, whoever looks better in training, and then you got Estevao on the right, Joao Pedro up the top, and then probably Neto on the left. Do you know what I mean? And then you don't have to sort of find a way to get Fernandez in the team. We've worked everything out on both sides. Things are perfectly clear. There's no conflict whatsoever. Okay, this is pretty clinical here. Enzo still has 6 years left on his contract, and we need to work together, which is what we're doing. This is interesting. So this is what makes me think that, everything's still on the table, including a sale. Like, we know he's got years on his contract. We want to, not be at war with each other. We need to be in harmony so we can all work things out, which I think could still mean a sale in the summer. A lot of Chelsea fans would be very upset with that. I wouldn't be overly comfortable with it, but some Chelsea fans aren't complete Enzo Fernandez converts. Even with his additional goals and assists, they might think in terms of midfield balance to be a truly great team. You look at, how PSG played last night against Liverpool, or us, that maybe you need this kind of specific functioning midfield that, without like a box crasher or whatever. I don't know. You play football how you want at the end of the day. But watch this space. I'll, of course, keep you guys updated on that. And let's move on and speak about Super Frank. So, gang dem, this is coming from Football Insider. Here we go. It's an exclusive. It's always an exclusive with these, man. Coventry City draw up Frank Lampard contingency plans as Liam Rosenior's decision emerges. Now, I'm going to give you my full thoughts on a general Lampard return. I adore Frank Lampard. He's doing an excellent job. And Frank Lampard, every club he's been to, Derby, Chelsea, Everton, Coventry, without weird Chelsea return, because it sort of doesn't really mean anything, all the fans adored him. He had the Everton fans. You could say he didn't do great. He kept him up. That was his remit. He sang. He connected with the fans. The Derby fans loved him. Obviously, Chelsea fans adore him. Look how he connects to the Coventry City fans. Fans love Frank Lampard when he manages them. Or match-going fans, not necessarily all social media fans. Anyway, let's have a look at what's going on here. Coventry City are making contingency plans in the event Frank Lampard is lured back to Chelsea this summer. Sources have told Football Insider. The Sky Blues have targeted John Eustace as a top contender to lead their club into the Premier League as they draw up shortlist replacements for their high-flying manager. The Derby County boss is believed to be ready to jump at the chance to take over at Coventry, who increasingly fear the prospect of an approach for Lampard from Chelsea, where he retains legendary status. I will give you my thoughts on this, so just let me read this, yeah? Liam Rosenior is increasingly likely to be sacked by Chelsea in the summer, despite only being appointed in January to replace Maresca. Lampard's potential departure to Chelsea would mean seen as a huge blow for Coventry, whose concealed promotion to the Premier League. They conceal the freaking title, bro. Chelsea survey the manager market. Mick Brown, the former scout's given his 2 cents on this as well. So let me give you mine. I love Frank Lampard, and I love how he's doing well. He's an incredibly intelligent man. He's emotionally intelligent to a degree in terms of connecting, but not to the point like, high performance linked in Liam. He obviously is a huge connection to the winning attitude, the never say die, the Chelsea golden era. He also speaks very highly of the current Chelsea owners, and has done so on a couple of occasions when spoken to media. Actually, incidentally, not high performance, but diary. I think he has been on a high performance, but diary of a CEO as well. He went on. He does speak very highly of Todd Bowley. I don't know about Benedict Barley, but the sporting directors, and they really like Frank Lampard. That's why they brought him in. And I know he only won 1 game in his interim period at Chelsea, but I think he sort of said it respectfully since, and I think everyone accepts that was an unmanageable situation. He sort of, again, on the Diary of a CEO podcast with Stephen Bartlett, he goes on and says it was just completely unmanageable. No one was fit. No one wanted to be there. Half the team were already looking at other clubs. The others weren't fit and just waiting for the season to end. And he said it was just a completely unmanageable situation. The fans obviously loved seeing Frank there, but the team was just, friggin' free falling from a completely peculiar, overly bloated squad. Players from the initial part of the regime that are over, like your Aubameyang's and all these other men, and that just weren't, it was just completely dysfunctional, and probably most pertinently, no one was fit. That's what Lampard was saying. So he shouldn't be judged on his interim job. He should be judged by his full-time managerial jobs, of which I will die on this hill. He's never failed. His remit at Derby was to take a team that sold their top goal scorer in the league and their best players, to make their football more attacking, to bring the average age down and make them competitive. He did all those things after losing key players, and he still got them to a playoff final. Comes to Chelsea, gets to a cup final in the top 4 with a transfer ban after selling Eden Hazard without being able to replace him. Of course, it falls off a little bit in the second season, and maybe lack of experience, and someone so experienced like Tuchel comes in, picks up, wins the Champions League. But Tuchel was always very mindful to praise Frank Lampard for his work, for having a really excellent group phase in that Champions League campaign. Now, do I want to see Frank Lampard manage Chelsea again one day? Maybe. He's obviously made a good decision to go to Coventry. It was a good decision. I don't think he's ever made any bad decisions, because he's never failed. Do you know what I mean? People like to say that to him, but he's never really done that. The next question would be, do I think the owners would bring in Frank Lampard permanently? I think they would. I think they would, because they're worried about the optics of the fans right now, the owners and the sporting directors. That it's at an all-time low of Chelsea in modern history. And they would all rally behind an appointment of Frank Lampard, and it would make them look good. Like, look, we brought your Frank back. We brought your legend, the greatest ever player at Chelsea. And look, he's just done really well at Coventry. We hired a manager that won the championship before, in Maresca, and he got, top 4 Conference League and Club World Cup. Frank Lampard's just won the title with a probably slightly less fancied team in Coventry, even if they've been well funded. And, he's managed you before, and you will love him. So that would be like a massive, PR boost for Blueco to the, Chelsea fans and stuff. Like, for example, say Rosenior was sacked today. He won't be, but say he was sacked today. And Frank Lampard came in today. He wouldn't, because he's about to win the championship. And Frank Lampard comes in. He beats Man City for some reason. Suddenly, that protest at Man United at the home game, this is all theoretical. It's a thought exercise. How fueled is that? If Rosenior gets slapped up at Man City, then you can imagine the vibes are different, and football changes so quickly. Do you know what I mean? I can see why they'd want to do it. Would Frank be tempted? He'd probably see it when he came back at interim, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll come back to Chelsea." under the new owners, because it feels like there's more. Because Abramovich never spoke to Lampard when he managed Chelsea. Jody Morris recently confirmed that. He said not once. He said he's the manager of Chelsea and the owner never spoke to him, which is weird because it's Frank Lampard. But of course, opposite with Blueco, there'd be constant communication with the sporting hierarchy and the ownership. Maybe Frank would like that. Maybe he'd like it more than, I don't know, a Tuchel, for example. So Frank might consider it because this is not the interim phase when everyone was unfit and there was too many players. Players are fit, they are drilled, and they're willing to run if they believe in something. And, a lot of the players there will know Frank. Like even so, like Enzo. I think Enzo Fernandez quite liked Frank when he was there, and he respects him as his playing career. And he's sort of turning into a similar player to Frank Lampard and box crashing and stuff. And of course, Reece James and whatever, and just other players that would respect him. Would it be a good move for Frank? Probably not. And would it be a good move for Chelsea? Probably not. I just don't know. It just seems like third time it's too soon. Like, you'd want to see him get Coventry promoted, win the, keep them up. But then again, maybe the Maresca path is right. Maybe not try and stay in the Premier League and fight a relegation season. Maybe take that team that are used to winning and adopt that to a mentality to a much scaled up team. A bit like Company and Bayern. A bit like Maresca with Leicester to Chelsea. Could it work? Maybe, but it feels really delicate and risky, personally. Certainly very interesting, though. I want to end today's content speaking about James Trafford because today, like I said, Thursday, it has been going around the media that he will leave Man City. I understand why, because he was sold to them, and to him was sold the dream that he's going to be Man City's number one. It was really, really good individual stats before he went. Of course, Edison's left. I think Ortega left. Is he still there? And he's from Man City before, wasn't he, Trafford? So he was like, yeah, I'll return and be the Man City number one. And then they sort of got twitchy when he didn't start immediately brilliantly. And they just bought Donnarumma, which is big cheat code, amazing shot stopper, amazing goalkeeper. They just sort of and then they've got a really high level. He's way too high level to be a number two. Of course, he was amazing in that cup final against Arsenal. Arsenal, who are regrettably a really good team. He was putting in an amazing performance of keeping them out. Of course, and again against Liverpool, 4-0 win. And knowing Liverpool are pretty pony like us at the moment, but it's still a 4-0 win and making saves against them. And he might play in an FA Cup final, possibly against Chelsea. And put in a good performance, but hopefully not, and we win, and we maybe sign him. And I think it would be a good signing, James Trafford. And maybe it's a bit of an Englishman bias, but I would love for, we've not had a top club, and then with the greatest of respect with Everton, since when Joe Hart, I suppose, was England goalkeeper. If you're the first choice goalkeeper for Chelsea, you have a very strong chance of being the first choice goalkeeper for England. I know Jordan Pickford's good, but he's much younger than Pickford. He could be the heir apparent, I don't know if he's profiled rightly in terms of passing out from the back, but in terms of a really good goalkeeper that can play well in the Premier League, that, of course, the question would be Penders. Penders is only 3 years younger than him. Do you do a thing where you get rid of both Sanchez and Jorgensen, which I don't think many Chelsea fans would be opposed to, and you bring in Trafford, you see how Penders gets on. Maybe Penders, I don't think Penders should be a number two, but I just think it should be something that should be considered at Chelsea. But let me know your thoughts, gang. Thank you as always for supporting me as a content creator here, for liking and subscribing on YouTube and following and 5-starring on those podcast apps, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Simply search Football Therapy Podcast. All right, gang. See you soon, hopefully. Take care. Peace.